Okay, so let's take a look at how to hold your flat pick, right? So, this might seem like a really simple and straightforward thing, but it actually took me a really long time to figure this out. And, different musical styles might have different ways of holding your pick, right? If you're playing jazz or metal and you're using a jazz pick, you might kind of hold it a little bit differently or attack it a little bit differently. But this is just purely from my experience and from what I've learned over the years playing live music and playing the guitar in sort of a flat-picking bluegrass style. And these are the things that have helped me with speed, attack, and performance as well. So pick angle. Okay, so when you're attacking the strings, if you're playing upstrokes and downstrokes, for years and years and years what I used to do is I used to play downstrokes with the front edge of the pick. Okay, so if you look at the flat pick here, you can kind of see that there's a front edge, which is this edge right here pointing towards the neck, and then there's the back edge, which is pointing towards the bridge. And what I used to do is I used to play my downstrokes with the front edge of the pick. And then the upstrokes were with the back edge of the pick. And I think that works okay. The difference between these two are minimal, but you'll notice a difference when you start to try to play really fast or in a high pressure situation. So what I've since done is I've changed from playing downstrokes on the front edge of the pick to playing downstrokes now on the back edge of the pick. And then my upstrokes are going to be on the front edge of the pick. Okay, and what that's actually done is it's increased my ability to play fast in high pressure situations. So in other words, live, right? If you're playing live and you have to take a solo at a really high tempo, right, a high BPM, beats per minute, picking with your downstrokes on the back edge of the pick is extremely helpful. Okay, and it really transformed my picking, and it made things a lot easier for me. And I think it's the proper technique, because if you really watch closely with guys like Tony Rice, David Greer, they're picking this way. They're picking with downstrokes on the back edge of the pick, and their upstrokes are coming on the front edge of the pick. And for some reason, it just really gives me the freedom to play really, really quickly, And one thing that I'd been struggling with for years is how to play and how to remain loose while playing fast in a live situation. It always seemed like when I sat down to practice, I could just pick fast for days and it would just come easily. And then when you get on stage, my hand would seize up, and that's partly due to nerves, and it's partly due to just standing up and playing and having to execute in a high pressure situation. And one of the things that I realize is that switching my pick angle, like I just said, so picking on the downstrokes on the back of the pick instead of the front of the pick, actually helped a great deal. It really helped loosen things up, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. I think maybe, the angle is better for, my wrist orientation, my wrist angle here, and it just works better that way. And one thing that I was having trouble with was upstroke. So I play a solo, and then I'd have to descend again, and when I'd descend, I'd have to play a lot of these upstrokes on the way back down. And what I noticed in a live situation is that the upstrokes weren't projecting, they weren't coming as easily as they should have, and it would actually kind of lock me up, and I would have to kind of make up for it other ways, right, on the fly, which is not very fun to do when you're trying to create a solo and you're trying to create a specific idea that you have in your head, a musical idea, and your hand and your arm is physically preventing you from doing that. It's very frustrating, and it's very difficult to deal with in a live situation. So I went to work on that. I tried to figure out how can I remedy this situation, and what I came up with is this. Basically, you're going to play the downstrokes on the back edge of the pick, and the upstrokes are going to be on the front edge of the pick. And that goes for strumming too. So not only with lead playing, you're also going to do this on your strumming as well. So I just found that really helps a lot, and I hope that, that it helps you as well. And I think one thing that you'll find is it's going to feel very, very strange, especially if you've been playing on that front edge of the pick all these years. It's going to feel really strange to you to switch to that back edge of the pick, and it took me a while to get used to that. And now it's something that I do, without even really thinking about it. And that angle too, that pick angle is very subtle, so don't overdo it. It's not like you're totally coming in at this crazy 45-degree angle. It's a very subtle difference, right? So it's just barely on the back edge right there. So if you lay your pick flat on the string, and then just move it just enough to where that front edge is lifting off, or that flat end of the pick is lifting off of the pick, that's the angle you want. So it's really just, it's barely an angle at all. It's just where the string actually contacts the edge of the pick. Another thing that's helped me a lot, and this is something that I've done all along, even when I used to play electric guitar, is I like to anchor my little finger and maybe a little bit of my ring finger, or just kind of anchor on the guitar itself when you're picking, right? So to me, what that does is that gives me a lot of control over my pick attack here. So when I'm attacking the string with the pick, it allows me to make the smallest possible motion to get full tone and to get full projection out of the guitar. And it really doesn't take that much to do that. And this might not be for everyone. This is just something that I do, and it helps me with control and with tone, and it gives me just a good way to pick in a controlled manner. So that's another thing. So if you combine the first thing that we talked about, that is picking on the back edge of the pick, picking downstrokes on the back edge of the pick, and the upstrokes on the front edge, and then you combine that with anchoring. So what we're doing with the anchoring is, all I'm doing is I'm just resting this finger down here, kind of like this. I'm actually touching that lower string. When I'm playing the low, I'm actually touching that high E when I'm playing those lower strings, and then when I come up here, it kind of gets out of the way. You know what I mean? And it's a feel thing. It's not like this thing that you have to diligently pay attention to while you're playing. It's a feel thing. And there are great pickers out there that float, like I like to call it floating, where their right hand is floating over the strings and they're picking this way. An example of that would be like Brian Sutton, who is one of the greatest pickers of all time, and he floats, and that's fine. That's his thing, man. He floats along, and he can shred that way. And if that's your thing, then more power to you. I'm just giving you kind of perspective from my point of view, of what's comfortable for me and what I've developed over the years. And I actually got this from my dad, who used to play in a 50s rock band, and he would do this with his Strat. I honestly think it's a feel thing. It has nothing to do with what is right and what is wrong objectively. I think it's totally a subjective thing, and it's like, if this feels good for you, work on it, do it. And if you feel like if you're picking like this and you feel like you're not getting the precision that you want, well, maybe try anchoring. And what ends up happening when you anchor like this is your wrist is kind of taken out of it, and it's more in the fingers. Your picking is more in the fingers, where here, your fingers are stiff and your wrist is doing the up and down motion. Whereas if you're anchoring, I feel you can get a little more finesse, and you can kind of work with the fingers a little bit more as opposed to the wrist. Another important aspect here of how to hold the pick, and I think this is related to that, is where on the strings you're actually picking, right? So are you going to pick up here, or are you going to pick down here? Well, as you can probably already tell, I like to pick kind of down here in this area between the sound hole and the bridge. And that's kind of the area that I like to pick in. And the reason that I do that is because, you know, to me, it provides the right amount of feedback, right? And when I say feedback, I mean the tension of the strings. So the tension of the strings is tighter down here, and there's more tension, so you get a little bit more, you get like a tighter surface to pick on. You know, if you're down here, there's more bend going on, so there's more like feedback. You know, I'm not sure what the exact word is, but there's just more bounce back going on. And if the string is vibrating and bouncing more, you're going to have less precision, right? So you're going to want to come back here where the strings are tighter and you can get more precision with your picking. And I actually also like the tone of the guitar when it's being picked back here. It has like a tighter, kind of just a better tone, I feel like. So when I'm picking, I'm kind of anchoring here, right? And sometimes I guess I'm almost kind of touching the bridge and the string. So this little area right here between the bridge and the high E string is kind of where kind of like where my little finger lives when I'm anchoring, you know, and I'm not consciously thinking about that at all. That's just where it ends up, you know. So, you know, for you it might be here, or it might even be on the bridge. You know, it's up to you. It doesn't matter. You know, it's a subjective feel thing, and it's about you know, how can you play your best? You know, how can you make the guitar as easy as possible for you, so that you don't have to think about these things and you can just concentrate on playing music, because that's the most important part. So it's just those three things, you know, like, you know, the pick attack angle, right? Picking on the back side, picking downstrokes on the back edge of the pick as opposed to the front, and your upstrokes are going to come on the front edge of the pick. And then where you're picking, right? You're going to want to pick in between the sound hole and the bridge, right here, to get a nice crisp attack and a nice tone. And then anchoring, you know, I like to anchor here. So I like to anchor my little finger just right here, kind of in between the high E string and the bridge. And I think those three things, if you combine those three concepts and work on them, you know, you're going to find that your picking is probably going to improve, and your tone is probably going to improve. And if you're in those high pressure live situations, you know, you might make it just that much easier on yourself when you get a solo tossed over to you.